In the twilight of a shattered world, Mark Wilson wandered the desolate streets of what was once a bustling city. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that twisted and writhed like the memories of the people who once filled these streets. Now all that remained were the echoes of a life lost to a plague that had ravaged humanity, leaving behind only the broken shells of those who had succumbed. Mark was the last of his kind, the only human left in a world overrun by vampire-zombie hybrids. The virus had torn through the population with a ferocity unmatched by anything before, turning loved ones into monsters, friends into foes. By day, the streets were eerily quiet, but as the sun fell and darkness crept in, the city awoke with the howls and shrieks of the infected. His only companion was a dog named Max, a loyal and brave German shepherd who had survived the plague alongside him. Max was more than just a pet. He was a lifeline, a reminder of what it meant to be human in a world that had lost its humanity. Together, they had forged a fragile existence, scavenging for food during the day and barricading themselves in a fortified apartment at night. But every night, the creatures grew bolder, their senses sharpening as the infection spread deeper into their veins. They could smell him, taste his fear in the air. They knew he was out there, the last flicker of life in a world of death. And they wanted him. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first guttural growls of the night echoed through the empty streets, Mark and Max prepared for another night of survival. The barricades were secured, the lights dimmed to avoid drawing attention. But tonight felt different. There was a tension in the air, a sense that something was coming. As the hours passed, the sounds outside grew louder, closer. The creatures were gathering, their numbers swelling as they hunted for their prey. Mark could hear their claws scraping against the walls, their snarls reverberating through the building. His heart raced as he clutched his rifle, knowing that this night would be like no other. Suddenly, a crash echoed through the apartment as the front door was smashed open. They were inside. Max growled, his fur bristling as he stood between Mark and the intruders. The creatures poured into the room, their eyes glowing with hunger, their twisted forms a grotesque mockery of what they once were. In the chaos, Max lunged at the nearest creature, his jaws snapping with deadly precision. He fought valiantly, buying Mark precious seconds to make his escape. But there were too many of them. Mark could only watch in horror as the creatures overwhelmed Max, their claws tearing into his flesh. The loyal dog let out a final pained whimper before the light in his eyes faded. Despair gripped Mark as he realized he was truly alone. He fled through the apartment, his heart pounding in his chest as the creatures pursued him. There was no escape, no place left to hide. As he reached the rooftop, he found himself surrounded, the creatures closing in from all sides. With nowhere left to run, Mark stood at the edge of the building, the cold night air whipping through his hair. Below him, the city stretched out like a graveyard, the once vibrant metropolis now a tomb for the living dead. He could feel the eyes of the creatures on him, their hunger palpable. In that moment, Mark understood the truth. He was the last light in a world consumed by darkness, and soon that light would be snuffed out. With a final breath, Mark closed his eyes and leaped from the rooftop, choosing to end his life on his own terms, rather than become one of the monsters that had destroyed everything he loved. As he fell, the city blurred around him, and for a brief moment, he felt the freedom of release. Then there was only darkness.